Welcome to the Kentucky Bourbon Traveler. It's the Christmas season here in Kentucky, so we're going to head out to Maker's Mark Distillery to take in their bourbon and their decorations. We're going to review Maker's 46 finished bourbon and have a recipe for bourbon chocolate pecan pie. Hey everybody, Merry Christmas. Hi, I'm Ken if you haven't been here before. Welcome to Louisville, Kentucky. This week we're headed back to Loretto, Kentucky to take in some distillery Christmas decorations while we cover a historic landmark of bourbon. Maker's Mark, a member of Kentucky's Bourbon Trail, according to the Guinness Book of World Records, is the oldest operating bourbon distillery, which has been operated since 1805. Maker's Mark is in the rural community of Loretto, Kentucky. The location is so far out in the sticks, it's a 20-mile drive on one lane, and it's an exciting drive too. We almost ran over a possum and watched a truck drive off the road in the rain that night. Bill Samuels bought the distillery for $35,000 in the early 50s. Him, his son, and his son's son ran the distillery until recently. Suntory Holdings of Japan purchased both Jim Beam and Maker's Mark for $16 billion in 2014 and exports both companies' products to many countries. It's a pleasure to see the beautiful grounds decked out for Christmas visitors over at Maker's Mark. This is the Visitors Center, which is attached to a restored antique home that greets visitors when they come in. Maker's Mark puts on quite a holiday display, decorating not only the bare winter trees, but they even put carolers out to entertain visitors next to their Whiskey Creek Bridge. The Elk Creek runs right through the property, enabling this site for more than 2 centuries to have a source of running limestone water to make great whiskey with. Many larger distillers use aluminum mash tubs these days, but Maker still has some of the older wood mash tubs. There's many very informational displays showing visitors the steps in making spirits. Although much of Maker's Mark is antique, it's every bit a working distillery. Here you can see their grain storage supply. Many things like the water and rick houses are still the same and have been left the traditional way. Here they are printing the labels on this 1930s printing press for their regular Maker's Mark. There's big news here for the future. Denny Potter of Heaven Hill Distilleries, who had a hand in the 2018 not only Best Bourbon, but Best Small Batch Bourbon award winners in San Francisco, will be the new Maker's Mark Master Distiller. Today we're profiling Maker's Mark 46 finished bourbon whiskey. It's a corn, wheat, and barley whiskey, unlike many rye whiskeys we've covered in the past. I bought this Maker's Mark 46 premium offering for $39 here in Louisville, Kentucky. Maker's 46 is very sweet with vanilla and caramel highlights. I think you can see the legs there. It's very smooth and its finish doesn't have a bit of burn. A lot like drinking a butterscotch drop, for lack of a better description. This Maker's 46 bourbon came out in 2010. It's a 94 proof small batch, which is initially aged 5 to 7 years. Maker's uses traditional rick houses for aging. Then Maker's Mark 46 is then finished by adding heavily toasted number 46 French oak staves for up to an additional 11 weeks. The barrels that are to be finished go to a man-made cave or whiskey cellar, which the Maker's Mark company went ahead and blasted out of the limestone rock. The temperature of the finishing whiskey cellar is naturally around 50 degrees much of the year. The grain ingredients or mash bill is 70% corn, 16% red winter wheat, and 14% barley. Wheat is a grain used in place of the rye mash bill component many bourbons use. Well, next up, Christiana is cooking with bourbon, making a bourbon-soaked pecan pie you're gonna love.
Hi, I'm Christiane from Würzburg, Germany, and since the holidays are right around the corner, we are going to make a bourbon chocolate pecan pie. So the first thing you have to do, which you got to get started a couple days in advance, you take a 1/4 cup of pecans and you coarsely chop them in a little grinder chopper, what you have at home. And then you will add the bourbon to your nuts and refrigerate for up to 3 days. And with Christmas rolling around, Merry Christmas, frohe Weihnachten, we're gonna make a delicious bourbon chocolate pie. So I have all my ingredients here. You will need corn syrup. Put that in our bowl. Saint Shu wants a little bit of that pie. Then we're gonna add butter, corn syrup, butter, and I melted the butter down a little bit so it's not completely hard, and I just mixed that right in the bowl with it. A little bit of vanilla. Then we're gonna take brown sugar. And I took some eggs and I already whisked them up so they can go back into the into our bowl too. So we're going to add the eggs. So we start stirring this the ingredients all together. Mix this up before we add the chocolate chips and our soaked chopped pecans. Make sure it's all incorporated kind of nicely. Mix it around till the eggs combine good with the brown sugar and the corn syrup. It's a little thick. Then we're going to add the wonderful soaked chopped pecans we had in the refrigerator. Ooh, I can smell them. Mix that all up in there too. Then we're gonna add our chocolate chunks. And I always use the dark Belgian chocolates. They're much better than the semi-sweet. And last but least, bourbon. Now, for the last, what we have to put in our bowl is we have the rest of the pecans I did not use in the soaked pecans. We put them on a cookie sheet and put them in the oven on a preheated oven on 375 for about 8 minutes to toast them. After we toasted our pecans, we take them out of the oven, put them on a plate and let them cool down just a little bit. Now I have a little chopper, but you can also put them in a bag and kind of hammer them down. So this is what it's supposed to look like when you grind up your nuts. It has to be bigger chunks in them. Now we add our toasted chopped nuts to the rest of the ingredients. Mix it around. Oh, it smells fantastic. Make sure you get them all kind of soaked in the wet ingredients. And then all what's left to do, we're gonna pour it in our pie shell. voila. But don't forget, because pie, the crust tries to darken really quick. And what I do is I kind of cover the outer edge with foil. You can use it with foil, and you can also buy you one of them little pie covers for the edges. And you just cover all the pie all the way around with foil. This way you don't have black edges. And then we put it in the oven on 375 and cook it for about 55 minutes. And bon appetit, enjoy.
Bourbon traveler.